Hello, how are you?
Good.
Hey,
How are you?
Good. Dina, you're off the picture
I'm
there.
off the picture. Hey, there's no room. If I scoot over too much, I will get up here.
Well, we wait a couple of minutes. We got a few people coming in as it's kind of slow at to begin with. And they need either I'm gonna have to get in, or you're gonna have to get in because our camera's not pushed back far enough.
It's okay. Take me out. It's fine.
Y'all gonna be talking anyway the most. Uh, I'm glad to have y'all with us tonight. We hope to have a bigger crowd. It usually takes a little bit to get in, and then some days a lot of people come back and watch, later on.
Sure.
Um, we always go over a couple of things before we start. We also remind everybody that we are still looking for um, Michael Vaughn. He is still missing out of Fruitland, Idaho, and it's a case that we've taken on to reminding everybody every time we're on. He is still missing, and he is considered to be abducted. uh, I don't know if you've read anything about this case, but they had a door camera that saw a couple of cars in the area, but the kid was
Have y'all heard about him?
No.
okay. He basically the father was inside changing one of the children's diapers, and he went outside on his own. He was, I think, 5 at
Yeah.
the
He
time.
walked down to the neighbor's house to ask if their child could come out and play. And the mother told him no. I think it was too late and for him to go home. So she walked him back to his driveway and turned around and left. And the child just disappeared.
And there were
Oh,
two cars that were seen in the area on door cams. They eliminated one of them. The other one, they're not saying they know who the car belongs to, but they're not saying anything else about it. Had a jogger in the area also that they just have a door cam on. They have suspects or people of interest, but they haven't had enough to come forward with an arrest or to name a person of interest. So they're still wanting all information on him. But he is. They are saying he was abducted,
Hmm.
stranger abduction. They're calling it, and it's a pretty sad story. You ought to go over and read about it. But we bring it up every time. They just put him on the side of a truck, an 18-wheeler that I don't know if you've. We talked about it last time. Project Homeward Bound
Yep.
or
Yep.
Homeward or whatever it is. Also, want to remind everybody that uh, this girl, Jolisa Fontes, I think it is pronounced, she is still missing now. A month. She's been gone a month. This is this is about 200 miles from where the girl was missing in Truckee, California. Um, she ventures with a purpose. There's a car that she's missing also, and the tag out of California, Selma PD in California. Uh, Ventures with a Purpose went up there and checked out all the lakes around there, and they found nothing.
Okay.
Uh, they had her phone
Do they know about
pinged.
it? Ventures with a Purpose?
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Uh, her phone pinged there a lake up there, her last location, and they checked it and didn't find anything and pretty much ruled that out up there
You know about
also.
Adventures with a Purpose, right?
No, we
Uh,
haven't we haven't heard of their channel.
all right,
Okay.
it's Adventures with Purpose. That is, it's not Adventures with a Purpose, is
Sorry.
what I say too. But you need to go check them out.
Definitely.
They
Yeah.
started out. They started out as a dive team clearing waterways of trash, just like they dive under and they find old abandoned cars and various things. And then they started going around trying to solve cold cases by finding cars that had been run off the road or missing people. And they have solved around 27 or 28 cold cases
Yeah.
Wow.
by finding the vehicles. And they were the ones that found the vehicle of Kaylee Rodden up in
Randy.
Truckee, right?
Yep.
Up in Truckee, they have a specialized side looking sonar in these canoes and stuff. You need to go over and watch her stuff. They're right almost 3 million subs now. They just exploded over the last year or two, and
Sure.
Awesome.
they travel everywhere in an RV. They go around in an RV. They go around these cold cases, and they take them on. And they, the police had checked this place completely out and couldn't find the car with Kaylee, and they found it within less than 2 minutes of being in the water. So it's amazing what type of equipment they have.
Well,
Right.
and it's
I would say
amazing too, you took that a bunch of the RV communities getting involved in these missing cases.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Also, we want to remind people, if you're on, we're getting a lot of people in here now, but comments, at least comments, remind people what your channel is. This is their channel, Chasing RV Sunshine, and we would like you to.
Beach Bum put it up there for me.
Okay, good. Like you to come over and look at their channel and check them out and subscribe if you haven't. I know they would appreciate it.
Sure.
And
Yeah, we'd love it.
we have picked up a few subscribers from us. Our other channel is just slow. I don't know what the problem is, but we're at 968, I think, right now, and it just seems like it's like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it happens. It goes and then it goes in spurts, and then it just kind of stalls for a while.
Yeah.
You never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, we're actually celebrating today. We just hit 2,000 subscribers.
wow,
So,
that's
but
awesome.
it's like so exciting. But you could look back again, and we're probably down to 170. The way that YouTube will give you subscribers and take them away.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but yeah, that is true. A lot of people say I subscribed, and I don't know why I'm not on there. So I have to remind people, even if you are subscribed, go over and check and make sure that you're still subscribed, because YouTube, I don't know what the problem is, but they have been losing subscribers of people that think they are subscribed.
So, where are y'all at right now?
We are just outside of Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Okay. Now, is Wisconsin your home base?
It is.
Well, we're from Wisconsin. We're actually residents of South Dakota now.
Okay.
But, we both worked in this area, so that's why we're back.
Okay.
We have family. So we visit while it's warm in the summer and then get out for the winter.
Well, our daughter lives outside of Milwaukee.
Oh,
And
sure.
we stay in Milwaukee at a friend's property. He put in a 50 amp plug for us, and so we get to stay there.
And he's the chairman. He's the chairman of the town, their little town. So like the mayor or whatever he is, but he's a young guy. But we love Wisconsin because of the weather.
Yeah.
At least in the summer, anyway.
Exactly.
in the summer,
only.
it's nice.
So where are
We've
y'all
actually
going to
been there
winter?
in the winter.
Where are y'all going to winter?
You could go.
We're eventually going to make our way into Florida for most of the winter. We're going to head up to Niagara Falls and up into Maine and New England, and then down the East Coast for the fall.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what.
Oh,
Stop. Okay.
We got a
Wait.
buffing. I don't know our satellite for whatever reason tonight.
Anyway, we were going to
It's
go
not
up there,
doing
but
good.
instead our back tires went off of a pavement and we tore up the back of the coach. So we've got to go.
no.
We got to go to Red
We've
Bay.
got to go to Red Bay and then back to Napanee, Indiana, because our inverters have gone out.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
no.
it's not one thing, it's another for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, now why don't you tell about yourself, both of you, and your past careers, and we'll talk about this girl that was your case.
Sure. So I started working for the Eau Claire County Sheriff's Department in 1991, shortly after I graduated college with a criminal justice degree. And I remained with Eau Claire County for almost 30 years. I was 2 months short of 30 years when I retired. I started in the jail, worked patrol. I was a team leader with a tactical team. I did some training with use of force and firearms instructing. And then I ultimately became a captain and retired as the undersheriff for the county.
Wow.
Thank you for
that's
your
awesome.
service.
Yeah, very welcome. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
You sound like me. That's me. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah.
And Deb, what did you do?
I started my career in 1998 as a reserve for the Eau Claire Sheriff's Department. And we actually met at the copy machine at the Sheriff's Department.
Awesome.
So he was making copies. But I moved on. I ended up becoming a deputy sheriff for a county in the northern Wisconsin for a couple of years, and got a job at Chippewa Falls Police Department, where I enjoyed my time for 21 years there, where I was in the West Central Drug Task Force, part of doing undercover work, and specialized in clandestine laboratories for methamphetamine takedowns and cleanup. And then I went back to patrol, handled drug endangered children cases, and that once I became the sensitive crime investigator, where I did all the children crimes, including the internet crimes against children. I also specialized in child abduction response team and was the coordinator for Chippewa County, and ended my career on night shift as a sergeant.
Wow.
And loved our jobs. Don't miss our jobs, because retirement is amazing. And so is RV life.
Well, thank you for your service too.
Yeah.
You sound like you and Tommy were doing about the same thing.
Yeah. I think it was about the same type of work. I did not enjoy meth lab work, but that's the only thing I think about working narcotics that I didn't enjoy was meth labs. It's just because we had when we were there, we had once we got the lab where it's not active, we had to call a special unit from Birmingham, Alabama, which was about 5 hours that we had to just sit there and wait for them to come down and spend about 20 minutes putting the stuff in cat litter, it looked like, and then hauling it off. But
yeah. And I was on that special team. So
Oh,
I was in the hazmat suit in 95 degrees, and actually had 2 officers pass out while we were doing it on 2 different meth labs because it was so warm. So it's dangerous, and luckily we're not dealing with the meth labs as much as we used to. So
well, now the fentanyl's a problem. You know?
Yeah,
fentanyl
it's
is
all
horrible.
manufactured elsewhere and brought in now.
Right. Okay, you worked this case that we're going to talk about. Is that correct?
Yep.
And let me just show everybody the picture of her, and you can explain. I'll just turn you loose with it.
Perfect.
Oh, I know them.
Yep. Back, and this was in 2014. Shannah Boiteau has been missing. She was a local resident of the city of Chippewa Falls, and she was actually on probation and was found to be in violation by the Chippewa Falls Police Department and drinking previously the night before she technically went missing. So she believed that there was going to be an arrest warrant, and she was possibly facing prison time. At this point, she had a troubled past, however, had been in drug court and was doing her best to clean up and be a productive member of society, had a job, had a 1.5-year-old daughter that she cared for. She had been living with her dad for a time period. However, her dad had gotten remarried and decided to sell their house and move out into the country, and therefore Shannah couldn't live with them anymore. So she was living on her own in the city of Chippewa Falls, and then believed that she was actually going to be in trouble and possibly going to prison, which ultimately wasn't the case, but that was the belief that Shannah had. So she was ultimately reported missing to the St. Cloud Police Department on June 21st or June 22nd of 2014. The Chippewa Falls Police Department was not notified of her missing person status until June 25th, several days later, when a friend actually reported her missing to us. We entered her into the system as a missing and endangered person at that point, and then the St. Cloud Police Department actually contacted us saying, oh, she's also reported missing to us, which obviously St. Cloud is in a different state. So there was different, it was Minnesota, Wisconsin. We are about 2.5 hours away from each other. But it was reported, and then they said, hey, could you guys go over and get Shannah's car back from her boyfriend who had reported her missing in St. Cloud and search it to see what the car looks like. So at this point, I actually am the officer that responds, and I search the car and do the initial interview of the boyfriend, Kyle. He tells me a story about Shannah's on the run. She didn't want to get caught by the police. We left her cell phone at her apartment because she figured the FBI was going to be tracking her along with the police because of her probation violation, and we needed to get out of town. We started our investigation. We ended up finding out through tracking ATM records that they ended up spending the night in Menominee, Wisconsin on the 21st to the 22nd, showing that they had removed money from the ATM and paid for a hotel. And Menominee, Wisconsin is only about 20 minutes away from Chippewa Falls. So at this point, the next day, they leave Menominee, and the next point that we have them again anywhere is at a gas station in Rogers, Minnesota, which is up I-94 heading towards St. Cloud. They're there about 10:30 in the morning, and they're seen on surveillance cameras, and they also use the ATM there once again. Well, there, they shower, they get some food, they each buy food at a different location because it sounds like it's a kind of a larger truck stop area, and they eventually leave there. And that's during my interview with Kyle. He ends up telling us that Shannah starts acting weird in the car, and both of them have history of drug use. And he believed that while they were at the gas station, she must have taken something. He says they pass a police car and she starts screaming at him to get off the roads and starts blaming him, saying that he called the police and he's setting her up to get caught. And he tries to convince her for the next several hours as they drive around back roads that he has nothing to do with this. And he says that they just kept driving and Shannah just kept directing which direction to turn, which way to go. And he has no idea where he was during this time period because of all the turns and everything that she was ordering him to do. Eventually, she tells him to pull the car over at some location, and she has on at this point flip-flops, leggings, and a tank top, and her purse. And she runs out of the car and runs into the woods. And Kyle says he gets out of the car, started to yell at her to come back. He can kind of see her running through the woods. He drives down a little bit, and eventually she comes out to the car, but she doesn't have her purse. He says, "Where's the purse? You have all of our money. Everything's in it." And she said, you don't need to know. I already think you're a narc," something to that effect, and gets back on the car and tells him to drive. And so he starts driving again, and eventually about a half hour or so after the first time she gets out of the car, she tells him to pull over again, and she gets out in the car and runs into the woods again. This time Kyle says that he immediately called Shannah's dad, Bud, and said, "Shannah's flipping out. She just ran into the woods. What should I do?" And the dad says, "Stay by your car. Don't run after her. Call the police department. I'm sorry, you're going to have to call 911 on her." So he does, and the police department comes and does an initial kind of walk through of the woods and stuff at this point. So now
It's buffing.
Hers is.
Yeah, but I think
there's the police department there. It's raining. It's yucky out. And Bud drives to the scene and ends up meeting with Kyle on scene and talks to Kyle instantly, and Kyle breaks down and starts crying. And so they think Shannah's running around in the woods. They can't find her. Eventually, the police department says, well, I'm sorry, there's nothing else we can do. We don't have enough staffing. We don't have enough people on. We're going to, at this point, have to stop looking. We have other priority calls going on. We need to stop. So they do. And Bud and Kyle end up, I believe, spending the night there that night. And then they try walking around and doing some more searching on their own the next day. It isn't until, like I said, the 25th is when Chippewa Falls Police Department gets notified, and why I have the details I have are based on the information. So I wasn't privy to the conversations Kyle and her dad Bud had on scene, but from the interviews that I did of both Kyle and Bud, they were consistent with their timelines and everything that they were stating. Speaking with Bud and hearing now information that's been over the last 6 years, he still believes that everything that Kyle had told him at the time and the day that this occurred was that Kyle was telling the truth as to what happened and what was going on. When I searched the car, I didn't find any sign of struggle. There was nothing out of the ordinary in the car. It didn't appear the car would have been cleaned up or anything. There was some dirt and tall grass, I remember, on the floor, along with like red clay, which then, speaking with the investigator in St. Cloud, Minnesota, would have been consistent with the area that they had been in, and that was on the passenger floor. So I said there's some things that are consistent with Kyle's story of what had occurred, and the reports that St. Cloud Police Department had also stated. Now, over the last 6 years, the issue is whether if she's on the run and she's okay, or if she had a overdose death or an accidental death in the woods in that area or something to that effect. It doesn't matter. She's missing, and her family is hurting over this. And questions that need to be answered, obviously, is where is she? We'd love to be able to bring peace of mind to the family and like to know what happened to Shannah. She's a mother. Her daughter is now got to be 6 or 7 years old. And obviously that daughter's got to be hurting still, not knowing where her mom is. And I know her sister and her mom have done several podcasts stating that effect, that they just want questions answered. And I agree with them. I don't care if she believed that she was on the run from the law and is still in hiding. It's just reach out to your family, Shannah, if you are, because they just need to know you're okay. But if something happened accidentally or not accidentally, which we have no evidence to show that there was foul play at this point, those questions need to be answered as well.
Did they polygraph the boyfriend?
Yes, they did, and he was shown to be truthful.
Good. What about canine? Did they put one in the woods?
They did. The canine search wasn't until, I believe, 2 or 3 days later. The problem of the day and night that it happened is it was extremely hot out and the weather was poor. And the area she ran into happens to be like 760 acres of woods and swamp. So the terrain is absolutely horrendous. One of the other investigators from the Chippewa Falls Police Department, Investigator Ziem, actually had been there and helped search at the time and said that, I mean, if she was laying in the woods and passed away.
I apologize. It's buffing our feeds.
Both sides are buffing.
Both sides are buffing for whatever reason. We're on Starlink, but sometimes, I don't know why, we get all kinds of streaming and never had much buffing, but some days it's worse than others. It's just the way it is. Well, if he's passing a polygraph, but you and me know that polygraphs are not 100%, but
No.
they're a great ruling out tool. And if someone passes one, usually they're very, very hard to beat. And I know I've heard of people taking things to sedatives and stuff, but usually the examiner will ask that, if you've taken anything prior to this to help you pass. But um, why do you think he burst out crying when the dad got there? Was it just that she's out of control, or that just seems kind of strange?
I believe it was because of the she's out of control. He knew that he was helping her hide and run from the law. I think there's a lot of stress, and he has now admitted that they both were using methamphetamine and other drugs that day. So there is drugs involved as well. I see someone sing to me asked how many stories. That's the one thing with Kyle is that over the last 6 years, every time that he's been interviewed by law enforcement, his story is down to the T, where he is not, screwing up details, anything that is a red flag as to untruthfulness. And the story is like incredibly elaborate, where I said there's things that if you made it up, there's no way you could remember to tell it over and over and over again the exact same way, unless that's what happened and that's how it was.
And the problem with lies is you forget what you lied about, and then you
Right.
And
add.
what's the truth? Exactly.
So some beach bum asked, "Can you put her picture back up?"
Yeah, I'll do that. How long were they dating prior to her missing?
I think they were dating a year or two from my recollection. She had a previous relationship that was a long-term relationship who was the actual father of the baby that was just put up there, their daughter, and that was Stefan. And he was also interviewed, and numerous other contacts and friends and family members with numerous leads throughout the years, but all of them have ended up in dead ends, and not anything that's turned up that's been a lead to actual her whereabouts. The family does have a reward up for any information leading to her finding, which I believe it's at $3,000. And there is a Facebook page that's dedicated to finding Shannah Boiteau.
Yeah, I was wondering about that 3,000, and I know it's been missing 6 years or so. I'm wondering if the family or whoever can't go to the governor's office and ask them to put a governor's reward up. I know that Alabama, they'll do 5 or 10,000 just right off the bat, and it doesn't matter how long they've been missing, just to kind of spur some new information, because yourself, there's people out there that do all kinds of stuff for $500 illegally, but when it comes to giving information, it's going to take some money in the back, out there. I mean,
Right.
that's why you think about it, the government over there in Afghanistan and stuff, they'll put up like $25 million reward for information leading to the arrest. I mean, or where they can take care of these terrorists. And I was thinking, well, that's a lot of money, to throw out, but it's going to take. And I don't know why the government doesn't do stuff like here for information missing people, to me, is a lot more important than some fugitives out there wanted for like some minor felonies and stuff. And I've seen
Right.
$25,000-$30,000. That's different than the guys, like the guy in Memphis last night that was shooting randomly. I don't know if you heard
Right.
about that, but
Yeah,
just
we did.
going around Facebooking live and shooting people, and they pretty much got him in custody pretty quick. But it may take that. It may take somebody
was
just
his name?
saying, it's there's this much,
What was the boy's name that did that shooting last night?
I can't think of it. He looked like I'm gonna say Red Jaguars on here tonight too. Good to see. But it's a very interesting case, and you I know you've seen people, and I know I've seen tons of people when they're in that. It's almost like a psychotic state of methamphetamine. It makes them so paranoid. And then you being on a TAC team, you know yourself that we had our drug unit, we had TAC team do a lot of our search warrants because they get so paranoid that they were armed themselves thinking that the police or some other people are going to come in and rob them. So they get so paranoid. So, I can imagine she probably was in some type of psychotic state when she ran into the woods. But her running in the woods and hiding her purse or losing her purse, that, who knows? I don't know where that came from. But just, I don't know.
Right.
If she was going to go back to that particular spot and find the money and run, who knows? But it'd be very difficult to go back to the same spot again once you've gone somewhere else, for sure.
Yeah.
And what Red Jaguar says, the missing live stream shooting and filming is on average in Philadelphia. Oh, that's what they do in Philadelphia, like film and shoot. God.
Wow. They want to be
famous.
Make yourself famous. And I know you've seen it. Anybody that's worked around narcotics, what they call tweaking. When they tweak, they're really kind of looking. I remember we were watching a house that we thought they might have had a meth lab in it, and there was a girl sitting in a chair in the front yard, and man, she was doing this number up and down. I mean, she was just super tweaking, and we ended up being a knock and talk at the house. She let us in, and just come on in, and there's meth all over the table. That we can say, go ahead and look around. There's not a lab. We found a meth lab inside the closet. So, they get paranoid, but they also get real psychotic. So it doesn't surprise me that she took off into the woods, but
no,
I guess it does surprise me that a hunter hasn't come along and found bones if she is deceased, or she hasn't been, no contact with her boyfriend, no contact with her relative
ever, which is like what is weird, because she was a huge social media fan and would like to post pictures of herself and was, constantly on her phone. But to leave her phone behind so that she couldn't get tracked is another reason why could be that she got to the highway or something, could have hitchhiked, could have had this pre-planned and someone picked her up, and that the lifestyle that she'd been living with drugs doesn't mean that she couldn't have got into human trafficking and could still be out there. But we did take DNA from both of her sisters and entered all her information and the missing case file into NamUs, which is a wonderful system throughout the United States, actually North America, for any unidentified bodies that law enforcement locates are automatically entered into that and compared to any of the information, being her height, size, weight, age, when she went actually missing. So she is
DNA CODIS?
Yes.
Yep, CODIS too.
Okay.
So
well, they at least maybe if she is found or arrested. I know that Alabama now, if you're arrested for a felony, they take DNA. And I don't know if they run DNA through CODIS or not, but I think they do, just to find out if you're wanted somewhere else or associated with some other type of crime.
Hey, Gail Kelly says, I think she had a drug meltdown, especially with the drug people get out there. It happened to a girl in Long Island, and she ran from her house to the woods, and they didn't find her till 7 years later.
Yeah, I think that may be that Long Island murders she may be talking about up there.
Oh, that was strange.
That was a strange. We watched a thing on some type of documentary thing on that, where they think the girl had some type of psychotic episode and ran, but she ended up being murdered up there. Part of a group of prostitutes, actually, they were murdered.
I also know that, I mean, just to speak about our area, Wisconsin, Minnesota prominently actually has a methamphetamine problem compared to the rest of the nation, where most people are dealing with heroin addiction. But methamphetamine is extremely common and especially dangerous right now, as everything is being laced with fentanyl. The number of overdose deaths have gone up tremendously in our area since the last 2 years, where before we wouldn't have overdose deaths per se, because that normally is common with heroin users. Methamphetamine users just are the tweakers that are the over paranoid, overstimulated type. And now we're seeing numerous overdose deaths and overdoses that officers are having to respond to almost on a daily to weekly basis in our area, that it's laced with fentanyl, and we're using Narcan at a higher rate in the last year of our careers, and that continues to be even worse. Obviously, we still have friends in law enforcement around here, but meth is the drug of choice in the western Wisconsin. Down by Milwaukee, that it's more the heroin again, but it's also, I said, meth is very prevalent.
Yeah, I'm trying to get over here and show y'all something that I looked at today, that they arrested today. If I can find it. Yeah, here it is. A deputy with their dog name. The dog's name is Ruger. Discovered 50,000 fentanyl pills on a traffic stop. So, and I'll show you this in a minute if I can get it to download. But you can imagine.
Yeah, Tommy,
Breakers off the street. I mean, it's sad that it's there and to be taken off the street, but I said it's a dangerous rate. Even if you're a marijuana user currently, be careful. They are lacing marijuana with it all the time too. I mean, it's scary right now what they're doing with fentanyl.
Yeah, I actually had talked to somebody the other day that smokes marijuana on a pretty regular basis, and I was saying, you need to be careful, because the fentanyl that I have been seeing, the same thing, people putting it in for whatever reason, other than I don't know. There's not really a reason that I'd say to sell. What you're usually trying to do is get them addicted to something. But here's the paper I saw. So, but look at those fentanyl pills on his dash, on his grill right there. The dog, 50,000 fentanyl pills during a traffic stop. That's amazing. That's a very good dog, but man, I just can't imagine. You think about that a lot of times, as you know, they put them in, they'll mark them up as some other type of drug, legal drug.
Yeah, and if you all of a sudden hear like a weird noise that sounds like snoring, it's because our dog Maya is laying down right here on Joel's lap and is snoring. So we're sorry if there's background noise, but that's what she's doing.
Usually our dogs are jumping up here in our lap.
I don't know, something about us being live. They got to be like our little dog Gracie's laying down here at my feet, but Maggie was, I'm not sure where she's at. There she is on the floor, but usually they want to be up here right. I don't know, something about being on live or something. They know it.
Red Jack, going on. That officers are now, he says our officers are now carrying Narcan in the patrol cars.
Yeah, I told her the other day, in fact, that it might be a good idea to try to pick up some Narcan. I know that some places around here want you to be qualified to use it or whatever, but it's not the old needle in the leg thing anymore. They just squirt the little nasal.
Yeah, nasal.
But it might be a good idea to carry some in your RV, if nothing else. If you roll up on somebody getting OD'd in a campground, till medical team gets there, or you were to handle something by accident that would have it. I heard about somebody the other day, it was up north, where they had taken a $20 bill and put fentanyl over the top of it, closed it up, and laid it on the ground for somebody to pick it up.
That's crazy.
Exposed to why somebody would do that to start with. But or somebody said, Beach Bum said, the $5 bills dropped on the ground laced with fentanyl. But
Amber said, when did fentanyl become such an issue?
well, I think fentanyl, it's manufactured in Mexico, isn't it? Pretty much the lab.
Manufactured in
Mexico and China.
It's mainly manufactured in China, and then China is sending it through our Mexican and sometimes the Canadian borders.
And it's legal in the people, chew those. The true addicts will break open the patches and they'll chew the packets, or they'll cut them and do a lot of stuff. And gel pack. But
there is a medical purpose for it, and it's used to combat a lot of pain and surgery. But used correctly, it's wonderful for people that are using it the right way.
We have a cousin actually that she has bone cancer, and it's a prolonged thing. It's not in remission, but still, if she didn't have that, she'd be in enormous pain all the time. Couldn't stand it. Couldn't even live a normal life. So they basically has to wear a patch of that stuff all the time. But they're so careful with it because falling into the wrong hands, and addicts will actually get it out of the garbage even and use it. So, it's like most of these drugs, it's like ketamine. Ketamine, a lot of people abuse ketamine, but they use it in veterinarian medicine it's a tranquilizer for large animals, horses and big things like that. And then zoos will use it for elephants and stuff, take them out. But people, they use stupid stuff. And I don't know if you've ever heard of we're getting kind of off track here, but you've ever heard of the thing called crocodile?
Yes.
It's a drug out of Russia where it actually eats from the inside out. And they'll be like, we saw a thing where they had like a bone sticking out of their arm.
No,
it's disgusting when you look at the pictures.
Skin basically just eat up.
Skin and muscle was eaten. And the doctor took metal things and he hit
on the bone.
And it was like, and the person's still shooting up or still taking it, and you're just like, what the heck? But what was it called again? I forgot it. Crocodile.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff scares me to death.
Yes, it's crazy. But anyway, so is there anything? I mean, has a family?
You might suggest a family contact the governor and see if they would
if they, a lot of times just by reactivating the awareness to the thing is sometimes helps. If the family, holds a vigil, gets the press involved, and they did that with the Suzanne Morphew case, where when it got to be so long, they held a visual. They got the news people involved and kind of re-energized the whole thing. We've really covered that case with the Morphew case. I don't know.
That was your first case.
It was our first case on here. If you ever have a chance to look it up and what happened with that case, but he was charged with murder. The husband was, but it ended up being dropped before it came to actual trial because of.
I'll tell you a case.
It's just a lot of stuff.
I'll tell you a case.
Misconduct was one of them.
I would like y'all to go back and look at of ours. It's Michael Chambers. Go look through our videos.
Strange case.
And look through that video. Look at the video and do some research, and then come back on and let's talk about that one, because I think that's one that needs to be really investigated.
Yeah, there was
Michael Chambers.
He was a retired.
That's right in the
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got the video on it.
He's a retired fire chief that ended up disappearing from his house in his garage. They found blood in his garage, and they found a blood trail leading out of his garage. And he supposedly had some bad knees, couldn't ride a bike for a long period of time. But the local sheriff at that time said that they tracked his phone where they believed he rode a bike 20 miles to a bridge in Florida. They believe he threw
But I
his.
don't think it was Florida, was it?
Yeah, I think it was. They threw his bike, and he believes he jumped off the bridge in a suicide.
8 feet of water.
8 feet of water, and the bridge is 4 feet off the water. Yeah, this is strange.
It's very strange.
And his wife.
Let me tell the part about his wife. His wife supposedly called him and said, "Hey, can you go to Walmart and buy me some mascara?" Now, I don't know about you, but ain't no way I'd send my husband to buy me mascara.
You didn't even know what to look for.
Exactly. So he did supposedly, and so when she gets home, she reports him missing. Well, they say he committed suicide, but just within 3 weeks, she had his phone cut off. She sold all of his trucks, all the little goodies he had. She went to sell the house. It's crazy. And she also said they've been married 32 years, I think it was, and that
they found
they
out
had
during
an
an
open
investigation
marriage
that she was having an affair
with a policeman.
I didn't hear that, but she was having an affair, and so she said, "Oh, we had an open marriage," to throw off any suspicion on her. It's just a very
weird case. Look it up.
And
Yeah,
I think
a lot of red flags there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think
you think?
I think they have a new sheriff in there now. The same one's not there, but it was a crazy. It was a very crazy case. Yeah, I hear it. Red Jaguar said that actually really crazy case. Yeah, it was, and it still is a very crazy case.
No, Gail, she was not a suspect.
No,
the police ruled it suicide.
Yeah, I don't. It's crazy. And the bridge where this all happened, they had construction going on at the bridge, and no one saw anybody out there that day. He disappeared on a bicycle or jumping in the water. They supposedly had dive teams that checked the water for the bicycle and him, and never found anything. So it's just.
I will definitely look at that.
Yeah.
That's one case that we've done that really bothered me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shannah Boiteau's family is very active. Every year since she's been missing, they have had a press release, and the local news here in Eau Claire, Chippewa Falls area does cover and does do a story on her missing. And also they have a Facebook page that is active as well. That is Find Shannah Boiteau. I should look that up. But there is a Facebook page. And they also do go back to St. Cloud every single year during hunting season and hand out flyers as well to see and ask for any hunters with any information of seeing anything in the woods. There have been bones located in the past. Unfortunately, the testing came back and they have all been animal bones that have been located. But like I said, it's like a 760 acre wooded area that's thick woods and swamp. So it's a bad terrain.
It could be her. It could be she could be in there dead in her remains, but if you have remains laying on top of the ground, animals can move them, and I mean they may be found later on, or they may never be found.
Exactly.
I know that we had a friend that I have a cousin that had a friend missing on the Appalachian Trail, and she's an elderly woman, and she basically wandered off trail about 30 or 40 yards, fell, broke her hip, and they did not find her. And they had all kinds of search teams search that area. I mean, the whole trail and everything, never did find her. And somebody, a hunter or another hiker, or whatever just happened on the trail. Getting off the trail happened on her finder, where she had moved some stuff, found a note
Yeah.
beside her that said, I've broke my hip, and if anybody finds this, I'm no longer here, but blah blah blah, but
now she wasn't elderly. She was in her
no,
60s.
no, she wasn't either. She was a lot older than that. I want to say almost 80 years old. That's what I think. I don't know. Maybe my memory is going, but I think she was a lot older than that. I know I'm 66. I don't feel it, but I am. I don't know. Today I might feel it. But
if y'all research that case, come back on and let's talk about it. Because
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'd like for Red Jaguar to also look at that too. Let me know what he thinks. I want to get him on here also at the same time with us sometime, and we'll talk about some y'all.
he says she ended up in human trafficking, he bets.
Yeah, that's good
That's so sad.
possibility, because a lot of these people a lot of investigators too have started going to, like, well, Craigslist used to have a thing, and then it really came down on them hard. So, but there's other things like Backpage and
Right.
and a whole just tons of places. But a lot of these investigative services will go and do face recognition on as many of these girls that end up, prostitution or whatever, as they can. But to pick it up, I'm just. But if she's got her DNA out there, I mean, sooner or later.
Yeah, and I mean she is a felon, and so her fingerprints are in the system as well. So she ended up in another jail or prison. Her fingerprints would have hit for that. It's just there's too many questions around this. At this point, the police department cannot say that there's any suspicious circumstances that are involved in her missing. But I said she is missing, and she has a family and a daughter that absolutely love her and miss her. And if she is still out there, I hope she eventually reaches out, because they just need to know that peace of mind of where she is.
Did they? What felony was she wanted on?
She was on out for felony drug charges for maintaining a drug house.
Okay. Nothing that the U.S. Marshals or anybody would get involved with, right? Yeah. I'm just a huge believer in the U.S. Marshals. If
they're fabulous.
They will find you and they will get you. But in this case, they, a missing, like running into the woods thing, that I'm with a lot of people here. There's just not enough manpower up there in that area, Menominee Falls, and everything. We've been all over that area, riding bikes and visiting that area. It's a beautiful area, but it's very rural area, forest, and there's all kinds of water quarries, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff. And you think she's been up there for 4 or 5 winters, Wisconsin winters. She's either deceased or she's somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we've covered some cases in Florida too, missing people. That they just completely missing, out, and a lot of them they had unknown suspects involved. One was out of Pensacola, and the other one was down in, I think, Tampa. But the family's very involved. But they just have nothing to go on.
So have y'all heard about this? What is it called? Geofencing.
Geofencing.
I think law enforcement needs to get involved in that.
Well, they are, but it takes a court order to do it.
Right.
Thing. A lot of people, if
you can buy it.
Well, you can privately. You can do
your own. Yeah.
You can geofence an area privately. It can be expensive to geofence just an area, but for law enforcement to be able to use that cell phones in that area, they're going to need a court order to do it, or some type of search. I guess search warrant or whatever.
That 2000 Mules video, or that documentary that came out, they talked about how they had bought geofencing from all over Wisconsin, the five states that had the election discrepancies. And one of them was Atlanta. And they remember when they did the riots there at the Wendy's in Atlanta, and the 12-year-old girl got shot. There was police rioting. They were rioting, and anyway, they did this group with 2,000 Mules, a documentary. They bought the geo fencing for that area. They bought it just to find out. They were finding out where the mules were, but it ended up solving that little girl's murder.
Because they had 2 phones in that area.
Yeah.
Right near there. But I don't understand a lot of the thing. It would be nice if you geofence an area where somebody's missing.
Yeah.
To find out if there's any other cell phones in that area during that period of time. But you know, too many times the cell phones are left at home or with their clothes and stuff, and you kind of wonder about that. Because who leaves their cell phone anytime? I mean, I personally don't carry my phone with me a lot because
He don't even know where it is usually.
I usually don't, because she carries her phone, and I carried one for so many years that I, you know, when I retired, I said, I'm not carrying that thing anymore.
Yeah.
And I said,
I should note that Kyle did voluntarily turn his cell phone into law enforcement, and it was processed, and no evidence was found on the phone to support any foul play.
When I heard that he was in the car and she ran into the woods, my first thought was, he's going to be the suspect. So why didn't he go in the woods after her? But, you know, if she's already ran into the woods once and she did came back out, so he might have thought, well, she'll be back in a minute, you know. If it had been fairly quick and they had a bloodhound out there, they might have been able to track her. You know, I've seen bloodhounds do some amazing things. Oh, yeah. They even down here, if there's not a bloodhound available, they'll call the actual prison dogs to come down and chase a fugitive or whatever. I've seen them chase fugitives way into the woods, these beagles and stuff. But in cases like this, it's going to have to be, you know, a lot of times, and you know yourself being in law enforcement all those years, and I can say this is not, I'm not bad mouthing other police. I do not do that. But a lot of times when you come out on the scene and you got a scene like this, you got a girl that's a drug addict and she runs into the woods, you're not going to mobilize the cavalry to come out there. And now if she's wanted bank robbery or something, sure, they'll get everybody out there. Or she's carrying a rifle, yes, they'll get everybody out there. But the average police officer is not going to say, well, we're not chasing her up to the woods. She'll come back out sooner or later, and when she does, we'll get her. You know, it's just like car chasing. A lot of departments, once they read the tag number and find out who the car belongs to, it's just too much of a risk. Yep. They'll say, see ya, and they'll get them later on. And I think that might have been the case in this case. The law enforcement goes up there and says, you know, we'll follow it up in the woods as far as we can, but we don't have the manpower to put 100 officers up there in the woods, nor do they see that she's going to be missing forever, you know. And
yeah, they didn't foresee that.
I know our department, I work for a larger department, and I can tell you, and if this would have been our department, nah, they would have not chased her up into the woods. They would have just said, you know, she'll be out, and when she does out, we'll get her.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's Beach Bum. I can't. Asked if they need volunteers and dogs to help search that terrain. There was an organized volunteer search of that area about several weeks after she went missing. And there's been, I think, there was at least 2 with volunteers. And I think it was year 4 when she was missing that they actually had cadaver dogs also out there searching the area where she ran as well. So that has been done. But like I said, it's such a large area. And to know exactly the route she ran, where she ran, how far she made it into the woods, you know, what actually all occurred, what didn't occur. I mean, there's tons of questions that surround this missing person case, and I just hope someday there's answers to all these questions, because I have them too.
But you
Yeah.
know what? It's sad for Kyle too, because I'm sure that at first there was a shadow over him.
Sure.
You know, maybe when he took the polygraph, it lessened it, but he was the last person to see her alive, and she's missing. And you know that there are people that will look at him and go, I don't,
Yeah, Red Jaguar had at a point there that him being a supervisor, he said there's tons of people needing police service. You're right. I mean, every department, doesn't matter how big you are, there's always calls on Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights. There's always calls holding. There's always. And if you're in uniform division, I know for a fact, even in the smaller towns that you work in, there's always calls. The dispatcher saying, "Hey man, can you go 10-8? Can you go in service? I got, we got calls holding in your zone or whatever." So if they turn it over to an investigator, if there's one available, then I know what the investigator in this case probably said was, she'll be back. Because I would have thought the same thing. A girl runs up into the woods or runs out into the woods, they don't suspect they'll disappear. Just like, we recovered the kid out of Texas that was on his way home. They think he might have smoked some spice or something, or some type of drug that got him into a paranoid state also, where he wrecks his car in the middle of these oil fields in Texas. And they find his car, and they find some of his clothes up and down a road. I can't think of the boy's name now. They finally found some of them, and they have searched. They had some people out there too, but nobody saw anything. They searched every pond, every oil rig tank inside of it, just like they were wondering if you crawled inside one of these tanks.
Yeah.
They searched for, I think, a 200 square mile area. I mean, it's amazing how much area they had. Echo searched that, but they started searching like within 12 hours of him being missing. His dad went out there and he said, "Look, this is not right. Something's wrong here." He called and said he was being chased, and they searched everywhere, and they still have not found anything.
Right.
Zero evidence of what happened. And you got to wonder about that. And then other people that have just come up where they missing and they don't have, just like the girl we talked about there, that her phone pinged beside the water, and they didn't find anything in the water there. You just wonder what happened, especially when cars are missing, with the whole car. Because my thing is, you find the car, you find the person usually, or you find evidence of where the person went. But and I know the family, the unknowing, the not knowing of what's going on, where they went, what happened, it makes it doubly hard for them. I don't care what kind of crime you committed or what you've been involved in, especially because it's, I've also heard, well, it's a victimless crime. Well, it's not really a victimless crime in my book, but it's not like somebody, a child molester or a bank robbery or something, or a murder suspect. They're just not going to be. Unfortunately, when you say they're a drug addict, you're going to get a lot of people say, "Well,
well, that's just like that."
There was one girl that we covered out. I don't remember
Atlanta.
now. Maybe it's in Georgia, where she went out for a walk, and she was recovering drug addict, or maybe not recovering, maybe still active, and she just disappeared. They don't.
I was talking about the transgender girl out of Georgia that disappeared, and McDonald's gave a $50,000 reward for her. There was a lot of people wouldn't cover things like that.
We try to cover it no matter what it is, but this girl that I can't think of her now, I thought she may have been, I don't remember now where she was, but she went out for a walk. We actually had her sister or her good friend online one night, and she went out for a walk and has never been seen again. Don't know where she. And it's just the idea of not knowing. I don't care if you're what your life is, the idea of not knowing. But with females especially, it's easy to think they might have got into been human trafficked because a lot of people run. My theory is a lot of people run away. We read a statistic, I think, a couple of weeks ago that 95% of all runaways return home. 95%, but the 5% that don't, uh, the large majority are stuck into human trafficking. Um,
Mhm.
they'll get sucked into that lifestyle because they need to eat or they have a drug problem, like that. Uh, Back when I worked in a beach town on the Gulf Coast, and the problem we had with human trafficking down there is we had Russian and Chinese and Haitian and people from Jamaica would come over here to work, and they would come with an organization, and the organization would incent human trafficking in this way. They would get them a job making, say, $8 an hour. They take $2 an hour for getting them that job. Um, we worked for the FBI and busted up an organization. He had 450 workers. He was taking $2 an hour, so he's making $900 an hour on the workers he had working. He'd put 15 people up in a condo and charge them $400 a month to live in this condo. 15 of them each, and they'd have like in a burger bedroom have eight people living in one bedroom, or four of them living in one bedroom. They had actual padlocks on the doors, but they would also move them into prostitution. And when the State Department got involved, when they started taking their passports or threatening, they would tell them, you can't tell you about what you're doing over here, because if you do, they'll do something to their family in Poland or Russia or China or wherever they come from, or they take their passports. So take your passport, you're pretty much, um, owing them, and it got to be a big thing down there on the Gulf Coast. You go into any type of souvenir store and there's somebody from another country working in there, they're high. They're very, very high probability that they are working under some type of organization that is taking too much of their salary, and they're controlling their lives. So
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, we do appreciate you coming on tonight, and we do.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're glad that we could come on.
I want to get Herbie back with Red Jaguar back with y'all too, and we'll look at one of these other cases we talked about and get your opinion on it, because I'm by far no expert, and I think it does anytime people will talk about things and work towards getting people found, or even putting a word out there to maybe help some of these people, because it might just take. Now, I think that's why I think these billboards of these trucks with these missing people are so great, because the more people talk about it, the more chance that somebody sees somebody and say, hey, that kid looks familiar, or didn't I hear him talking about that, and just make a call. The old see something, say something thing, I think really can make a difference.
And share the video tonight, people, so that we have more viewers come in and look. A lot of times our viewers
come in later.
Afterwards.
Yeah. We're so glad that we could be on here. And we're going to say, I mean, Shannah Boiteau was no, let's say, Mother Teresa, but Kyle isn't either. Kyle's got a lengthy history of domestic abuse involving Shannah herself, and also drugs as well. But that doesn't mean that as a law enforcement officer that you can't care about the family, you can't care about her, you can't care about their whereabouts. I would love to be able to help the family to bring closure to this case. And I said, I'm hoping someone can come forward with some information, whether they find her body somewhere. At this point, I know law enforcement doesn't have any reason to believe that foul play was involved, but if someone knows something that was involving that, if they come forward, that would be absolutely wonderful, because questions need to be answered, and I would love, and all law enforcement would love to be able to bring closure to the family on this case. And if Shannah, if you're out there and you're listening for some reason, please call your mom. Call your dad.
Well, you know, if she ever Googles her name, it's going to come up.
Right. So I'm like, you just need to call and let them know you're okay.
So when do y'all leave Wisconsin?
We're leaving on September 18th.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we won't see you if we come up that way. We won't.
We're actually going to be hopefully in Naphany, Indiana. They're getting some inverters exchanged up at our place that did our solar. Probably mid-October.
Okay.
I'm hoping we get out of there before it snows, but last time we were up there it snowed, so I think we love the area though. A lot of Amish people, and we love it.
Oh yeah.
Have y'all been to Milton?
What's that?
Have you been to Milton?
No.
Milton, Wisconsin? No, it's outside of Madison. Right?
There's a great place to eat ice cream
It was
up
Milton,
there.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Man.
I thought, yeah, you guys did that video on the ice cream.
Yeah, that place is awesome.
So listen, thanks for coming on.
Yes.
We really do. We appreciate y'all. And I
Everybody
hope
go to their channel.
Yeah, go to their channel and check it out and subscribe. And we hope we can catch up with y'all out on the road. I look forward to meeting you in person.
And we
That's
look
true.
forward
It'd be wonderful to meet you guys.
Thank you much.
we want to do the Michael Chambers case with y'all.
Yep.
I got it written down. I'll be in contact.
All right.
All right. Y'all have
right.
a good night. We enjoyed it. Thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.